The Vietnam War was a conflict in Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia from the 1st of November 1955 until the fall of Saigon on the 30th of April 1975. The United States involved themselves in the Vietnam War in an attempt to prevent the spread of communism. Other factors such as foreign policy and geopolitical strategies also played a main role, but communism, especially during the Cold War, played the main role. The Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. This lasted from 1947 to 1991, following the defeat of the Axis powers in the Second World War. An ideological and political rivalry between the capitalist United States and communist Soviet Russia gave way to start the Cold War. Although no known battles between the Russians and American soldiers directly ever occurred, a Cold War is definitely scarier in many ways than a real war, especially with the threat of warfare being nuclear. Mkultra was a US government program originally codenamed Bluebird in 1949. Then in 52 it became Mkultra. The CIA was trying to control people's behavior, from prisoners to hippies, without their knowledge, and their main objective was to create hypnotized assassins, commit an act of murder and have no guilt and no memory of the act and the program. Even during the Vietnam War, they were attempting to implant couriers, people with an objective of delivering a message, then afterwards having it wiped from their memory in case they were captured. Mkultra was a continuation of work that began in Nazi and Japanese concentration camps, and the CIA even hired Nazi doctors and Japanese torturers to learn of their methods. Richard Helms ordered Sidney Gottlieb, an American chemist and spy master who headed the CIA from the 50s and 60s, to destroy all the records of Mkultra, and the history of Mkultra was only unearthed due to whistleblowers who worked with the program. Call of Duty Black Ops takes place between 1961 and 1968, during both the Cold War and the Vietnam War, 16 years to 23 years after the events of World at War. It portrays a secret history of CIA black operations carried out behind enemy lines, and explores all of the historical events just mentioned previously. It's what I'd call one of the best fictional, historical, psychological thriller game of all time. Not one of the best COD games, one of the best games of all time.
Wake up. Wake up.
Where am I? Where's Reznov?
You will answer our questions. Do you understand?
Who the hell are you?
That's not important. What's important is who you are. What's your name?
Fuck you!
Alex Mason, the character you play as and the protagonist of this story, has been captured and is currently being interrogated. The mysterious silhouettes torturing him want to know what the numbers mean. The campaign that follows are the memories of Mason, reliving the conflicts and wars he's been through that led him to try and work out what the hell is going on and what the numbers mean. His first memory you see is in Cuba, 1961. Mason is with Woods and Bowman, and their objective is to find and assassinate Fidel Castro. They later find his compound and assassinate who they thought was Castro, and escape using an aeroplane. However, the path is blocked by enemy artillery, and Mason sacrifices himself by jumping out of the vehicle and taking out the roadblocks. Following this, Mason is knocked unconscious, and when he comes to, he finds himself on a shipment dock with 3 men towering above him. One of those men, the real Fidel Castro. Castro gives Mason to Dragovich and says he can do whatever he pleases with the American. Mason's sacrifice proves himself to not only be a worthy asset on board any mission, but proves to his entire team that he's a good friend to both Woods and Bowman. Mason then gets sent to the Vorkuta labor camp where he meets Viktor Reznov. It's important to point out that he's been in this gulag for over a year at this point. Mason and Reznov, at this point, have established a good friendship between themselves, and Mason speaks very, very highly of Reznov. The opening scene of Chapter 2 starts with Reznov and Mason fighting each other for the amusement of the guards. A guard comes over and starts beating the shit out of Reznov. However, this is what the duo wanted all along, and this is the beginning of Reznov's escape plans in action. You run through the mines of the prison holding a knife, and by the end of this mission, you are the only 2 people that are able to escape. You both escape on motorcycles and later hijack a vehicle with a machine gun on the back to take out the enemies currently pursuing you. Eventually you come by a moving train and Reznov commands you to jump onto the train to continue the escape. However, to Mason's surprise, Reznov doesn't follow you. He gives the freedom he's been planning all these years in the Gulag, all for Mason, while forsaking himself. I think it's quite interesting how Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 in a way have the same ending, a friend sacrificing himself for another. This encounter proves Reznov's worth as a friend, so it's not shocking that these two people are both helpful to one another as they are very similar people, and they have a deep sense of companionship between each other during these hard times that they had in the Gulag. Something else is also kind of fishy about this situation. You spent 1 year in the Gulag, yet such a big chunk of your memory has somehow gone missing. What did you do before then? Somehow your only memory is just you escaping. Flash forward to a month later, Mason is summoned to the Pentagon alongside Hudson, where he is to meet with the President John F. Kennedy. However, while walking through the Pentagon, Mason starts to feel like he is in a dream state. He starts to see numbers, hear odd noises, and even starts quoting Reznov's steps to freedom, which were a part of his escape plan. The interrogator then lets Mason in on an important plot point. He was actually inside the Pentagon when Mason was there as well. Mason and Hudson both go to meet JFK, then Mason's hallucinations spark to what seems like a breaking point. Mason points a gun at JFK, almost looking like he's going to shoot him. Then you flash back to reality. You never held the gun and it was just your imagination. Whatever happened in Vorkuta changed Mason entirely. He was not acting like this in Cuba. From first-hand viewers, this could just seem like simple PTSD, and during my first playthrough I assumed that it was just that. I thought maybe Mason just felt rageful that he got sent to Vorkuta after a mission given by the United States, and now they're just giving him another mission to take out Dragovich, the man who fucked him up in the first place. This could lead Mason ending up in the same position over and over, and Reznov's plan was all for nothing, but you'll find the reasoning for his psychotic breaks to be a lot more sinister later on. Mason is given another task, Operation Flashpoint, to take out the Russian space program and demolish their long-ranged missile project. The mission starts with Mason and Woods moving toward a facility holding a rocket ship. As you move closer to get a better visual, you find out that Weaver has been captured by Kravchenko. This is Dragovich's right-hand man who we initially saw in the first mission, one of the 3 men who you woke up to after being knocked unconscious, and the man who gave you up to Dragovich in the first place. Kravchenko lets you know he's aware you're here although he can't see you, and to get a response from you, he rips out one of Weaver's eyes.
Your choice.
This is not good.
Whiskey team, are you in position?
Roger, X-ray. Whiskey's covering the road.
Weaver's been compromised. Expect the base to be an elevated alert. Hold your position, we are inbound.
You and Woods are both well aware that you can't just Rambo this shit. You're heavily outnumbered and the only way you're able to make your way to Weaver is to stay undercover. So you sneak up to the base and take out 2 CCCP soldiers to steal their uniforms. You later meet up with your other SOG comrades who were sent to assist you, including Bowman, who accompanied you on your first mission, and storm the facility to stop the space program and take out the Ascension group. So yeah, you're also tasked with taking out the Ascension group, who are also a group of defected Nazi scientists, helping the Russians after the end of World War II. After ziplining epically down to the bunker where Weaver is being held hostage, you take out his torturers, and Weaver accompanies you to continue your mission. Here's the bad news and the good news. The bad news is the Nazi scientists launched the rocket ship. The good news is you can launch a guided missile to take out the rocket ship. I mean, I know this game didn't come out too long ago, but this is still a 10-year-old game and it just looks so fucking good still. Like, I was just blown away by the visuals of this game. Just look at this shit, man. Holy But visuals aside, you need to escape the fuck out of this shit show and kill everyone you can as well as the Ascension group while you're at it. And by the end of this mission, Dragovich escapes the facility but gets chased down with his vehicle burnt to a crisp. Woods asks Mason if he's happy now since he's had a hellbent goal of killing Dragovich this whole time. Mason replies to Woods saying he's not satisfied until he sees the body, and since he didn't see a recognizable body, he becomes sure that Dragovich is still alive. His obsession later led him to track down a Russian defector who had information on Dragovich, so Mason, Woods and Bowman head to the MacV compound. Another mission here is that you'll need to find a collection of documents about Dragovich. The intel you receive from this mission details Dragovich's accomplices Kravchenko, Steiner and Clark. Steiner and Clark being the scientists behind the deadly gas that Reznov has had first-hand experience with, which will later be explored in a future mission. You find out that the defector is none other than Viktor Reznov, who saves you from a surprise attack, and he confirms that Dragovich is still alive, and he has a plan to attack the West if you don't stop him. So now, Reznov accompanies you and your team, and with the dossier in your possession, you must make way to your extraction point. However, the aircrafts coming to save you won't exactly save you until the injured soldiers escape first, so you need to defend your position until help arrives. You're finally able to escape on a boat where Reznov informs you that the Vietnamese are being helped by the Russians. The next mission you play as Hudson interrogating Clark, who was one of the lead designers of Nova 6. Hudson, Weaver and Dr. Clark escape the facility and Clark gets bullseyed in the process right after saying that the numbers are the key to bang, bang, bang. You get picked up from a van, then Hudson says he needs to go to Mount Yamantar, a location in Russia, to search for Steiner, the Nazi scientist working with Dragovich, the last link to Nova 6. The next mission is a very good segue to explore the origins of Nova 6 and Reznov's experience with the gas. You time jump back to World War II, where the Russians are fighting off the invading Nazi soldiers. Here you fight alongside Dmitri, a returning character from World at War. You find Steiner casually smoking from a cigar and oddly comfortable with the situation, and simply states he wants to meet with Dragovich. Another thing, Dragovich is actually the lead of Reznov's group, but Reznov's suspicions of Dragovich reaches its boiling point when you hand Steiner to Dragovich. They start talking like long-lost friends instead of enemies at war. Dragovich also entrusts Steiner with a fucking gun. Like, what? Cunt? Reznov and Dmitri are tasked to head inside a seemingly abandoned frozen ship in search of Nova 6. But when you come across it, Dragovich wishes to see the effects of the gas firsthand and betrays your team, shoving you inside a locked room, releasing the gas for public display. And here is one of the hardest deaths to watch. Although Dmitri isn't the main character of this game, it's sad to see him go so quickly after making his return, and the way he goes is unnerving to say the least. Here you can see why Reznov is so hellbent on killing Dragovich and why the connection between him and Mason bleeds through to each other. Before Nova 6 can be used on Reznov, however, the British arrive in search of Nova 6 and Dragovich and Steiner make their escape, leaving you to deal with the British all alone. Even though Reznov escapes the ship, he is promptly captured and sent to the Vorkuta Gulag, where he will remain until his escape with Mason. So after these important flashback missions, the origins of Nova 6 and the death of Clark alongside the important mission of finding Steiner, you return to the main Mason timeline in Vietnam. Woods and Mason's helicopter gets shot down and plummets into a swamp. As the helicopter sinks deeper into the swamp and you attempt to pull the doors open, all hope seems lost until Reznov randomly appears and helps you escape. You, Woods and Reznov rendezvous with Bowman and plan your search for Kravchenko, then begin one of the coolest stealth missions of all time. Although it's quite simple, A to B kind of stuff, the setting and environment are done so well and perfectly captures the horrific duties you must perform as a soldier. Sneak up behind unsuspecting victims and slit their throat, then plant underwater explosives to destroy their village. Here's where I believe Treyarch used to shine perfectly during the time of World at War and Black Ops 1. They attempted to create works of art in video games, capturing the horrible nature of war and the effects it has on people. They weren't trying to glorify it as much as the Modern Warfare series initially did in my mind. Treyarch weren't scared to take controversial historical people and events and create a fictional story involving them. Although the Modern Warfare trilogy was nothing short of a masterpiece in itself, it was a breath of fresh air to have the switch between each developer, focusing on completely different themes. But back to the story before the nostalgic rambling continues. You set off the bombs you planted after completing your stealth mission and begin to assault the village. After clearing this village, you and Swift enter a tunnel to continue the search, and inside this tunnel, Reznov randomly drops down and scares the fuck out of you and Swift. After talking to Reznov, Swift turns to you and pretty much asks, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" While continuing your walk, he turns back again and asks you to get your shit together, before being surprised attacked by an enemy Vietnamese soldier. You're now left to continue alone through the rat tunnels before bumping into Reznov again. You then find Kravchenko's military command center and come across a recording detailing the effects of Nova 6. The situation surrounding Reznov's sudden arrivals become a bit more suspicious as you make your escape and Reznov doesn't follow. How is this man able to just come and go whenever he pleases, accompanied by no other comrades in enemy territory? Here's where I thought Reznov could have been a Russian spy, an attempt to betray you later on, and then the interrogator also says firmly that Reznov cannot be trusted no matter what he tells you and no matter what he says. Reznov could well be an enemy, but also the interrogator could just simply not trust him since he's a Russian defect. 2 days after these events, Mason was informed by Hudson that the CIA shot down an enemy aircraft carrying Nova 6, so they were tasked to track this shit down. However, when Mason and Woods get to the crash site, there's no trace of Nova 6 left. However, a map of Kravchenko's compound is retrieved. Before you're able to evac, however, Mason is unfortunate to be on the weak side of a plane hanging off a cliff and falls to the ground, where he is picked up by none other than Kravchenko and Dragovich. At this point, Mason, Woods and Bowman are captured by Russian Spetsnaz and Vietnamese operatives, and the CIA assume that these men have already died. Now you're back in Hudson's timeline, where they head to Mount Yamantar and come across a massive realization. The US has been infiltrated by multiple terrorist cells, working undercover for the Soviet Union in their plan to take over the West. They are ready to release Nova 6 across the US once they have the correct signal, and Dragovich is communicating with the terrorists using the number sequences. Their team also get informed of Steiner's location, another person who is able to stop the broadcast, and he is at Rebirth Island. So their main objective is now to head to Rebirth Island and capture Steiner alive. At this point, you're back in the interrogation room, and now everything makes complete sense. Mason's numbers isn't PTSD. Mason was brainwashed and reprogrammed by Dragovich to translate the codes back in Vorkuta. The interrogator becomes more and more frantic and desperate, which leads Mason to reach a breaking point and slip back into Laos, Vietnam, to relive one of the most traumatic memories he has. What comes next is probably one of the most popular scenes from any Call of Duty game to date for a number of reasons. One, definitely being Treyarch's brutal and unrelenting take on the sinister reality of war, and another reason for this cutscene's fame is the correlation between this and the Russian roulette scene in Deer Hunter, a 1978 classic, which Treyarch took a lot of inspiration from. Mason and Bowman are sat facing opposite each other. The Vietnamese and Russians force you to partake in a game of Russian roulette, a game where you know what it is, come on my dude. However, Bowman refuses and calls the Spetsnaz out for being a filthy Marxist, and what follows is a really brutal and sad death scene to witness.
Bowman! Bowman! You fucking son of a bitch! Next!
Dimitri's death and now Bowman's become hand in hand to a certain extent, both of their deaths being on public display for their friends to witness. This just ties Reznov and Mason closer and closer together and explains Mason's attachment to him later on. But Bowman gets beaten to death and now Woods is next if they don't think fast. Woods reluctantly plays Russian roulette and is saved by the bell when the chamber is empty. Next, it's Mason's turn. Woods informs Mason that the time is now and you know exactly what this means. You point the gun to your head, hold your breath, then another classic Call of Duty slow-mo sequence begins. You take your chances and shoot the Vietnamese soldier to your left, and as he writhes in pain, you reach quickly into his pocket, grab out a gun and take out the enemy soldiers holding you hostage, then chase down the escaping Russian to avenge Bowman. One of the craziest things about this sequence is that I've played through this game 5 to 10 times now, and every single time, the odds are always in my favor. Every single time. But no time to waste, you're now off with Woods to track down Kravchenko. You fly out in helicopters taking out as many enemies as you possibly can, then land and head on foot to Kravchenko's base. As you enter a base and set free prisoners of war, it's here that you reunite with Reznov, who's still adamant to continue on with the mission. You venture deeper into the underground bunker, where you will cross paths with Kravchenko, who surprise attacks you. There's a lot of surprise attacks in this game if you've noticed, and leaves you knocked helplessly on the ground. Woods comes to the rescue, backstabbing Kravchenko for extra experience points, then Kravchenko takes inspiration from World War II and pulls the pin on an explosive vest, then jumps out the window with Woods still tightly gripped to him. This leads Woods being KIA along with Bowman, and the interrogator is sure that Mason was the only survivor of that mission, although Mason is sure that Reznov also survived with him. At this point, Mason goes completely rogue and heads to Rebirth Island with Reznov to kill Steiner, completely alone with no assistance of the SOG or other POWs from the previous mission. It's important to note that this is where Hudson's team are heading, with the objective of finding the same guy, with one big difference. Hudson's team wants Steiner alive to stop the broadcast to the terrorist cells undercover in the US, while Mason and Reznov want Steiner killed in an act of revenge. Mason and Reznov sneak into Rebirth Base, stealth killing enemies on their way to Steiner, then later create a bloodbath in the experimentation rooms, where the Nazi scientists were experimenting on different animals before finally reaching Steiner. Then Hudson's team follows, making their way through gases of Nova 6, being careful to not be shot as their hazmat suits would be exposed to the deadly gas, and they make their way through to Steiner as well. It becomes evident that Mason and Reznov beat them in the race for Steiner when they walk through the experimentation rooms and see the aftermath of the bloody conflict. They too eventually locate Steiner, and then they come across a disturbing twist that fully explains the nature of Mason's schizophrenic episodes.
Friedrich Steiner. This is the end.
I know you. Mkultra. You don't know what we did to you.
Mason, talk to me.
Your evil has claimed the lives of many good men. No longer.
Mason! We have to stop him now! Killing me will not stop you. Damn, it's bulletproof! Mason, what are you doing? We need him alive! Stand down! My name is Victor Reznov! Stand down!
My name is Victor Reznov, and I will have my
Revenge! Mason, no!
I swear to God, that's how Steiner died. Reznov killed him right in front of me!
You're lying, Mason. You killed Steiner. We know you did.
Reznov got exactly what he wanted. Revenge.
We saw the report, Mason. Victor Reznov did not kill Friedrich Steiner. Hudson saw what happened.
Reznov died in Vorkuta, and Mason's interactions with him were a fiction of his imagination. Mason was completely and utterly skits. Although Reznov did not physically exist after the escape of Vorkuta, his psychological presence was very, very real to Mason. Even though he sabotaged the capture of Steiner, there were many missions where he gave Mason strength to survive, such as saving him from a surprise attack in the McV compound, and even forcing open the helicopter door underwater where you were about to give up. It's quite possible that Mkultra's experimentations had strength-inducing side effects, as it's well known that drugs can also give people superhuman strength, so it's not a far-fetched idea that when Reznov was accompanying Mason during his missions, he was actually twice as strong during the conflicts. After all, he made it through Rebirth all alone. He snuck in and took out an entire platoon of Soviet soldiers by himself and beat Hudson in the race to find Steiner. Another thing to note is that Mason was originally programmed by Mkultra to take out JFK. However, Reznov in a way reprogrammed him while he was being experimented on, telling him Dragovich, Steiner and Kravchenko needed to die. This could have in a way sabotaged the Soviets' attempts with brainwashing Mason. Yet again, I need to repeat, although Reznov did not physically exist, his psychological presence was very, very real to Mason, and he gave him much needed strength during these life or death situations. And there's another thing that we shouldn't glance over. Reznov informed Mason that there were Russians already in Vietnam and that Dragovich was planning to take over the US. These are both things that Mason found out from Reznov before anyone else knew. It's possible that Mason was living a double life and there were some times where he was just acting out as Reznov. Although it's unlikely, it would explain a lot. So now you're back in the interrogation chamber for the final time, and Hudson reveals himself to be the interrogator, also exposing Weaver to be the other silhouettes interrogating him. Hudson undoes Mason's straps on his arm in the chair, and Mason knocks Hudson unconscious and makes a run for it. However, it's obvious at this point Mason's mind is in complete disarray, and he begins having stronger hallucinations. Then he has a vision of his time in Vorkuta, while Steiner and Dragovich are in the final phases of brainwashing Mason.
The subject has been successfully implanted with the knowledge to translate the number sequences.
So, what is the problem?
His responses to our orders have been sporadic, unpredictable. He shows a remarkable resilience.
Why?
He is unusual, atypical. Few men possess such will. Our other test subjects have been far more successful.
If you will not follow the orders embedded in the numbers, then he is of no use to me.
They both assume they've tampered with Mason's brain a little too much and have, to put it bluntly, kind of fucked him up. As Mason is about to make his final escape, Hudson catches up with him and gives him a left-right good night, and Mason has flashbacks of his memories again, but this time finally putting the pieces together and realizing where the numbers station is. The Rusalka ship back in Cuba, where this whole shit show began.
Cuba.
Mason and Hudson head back to Cuba and after trial and error finally make it to the station and bring an end to the broadcast. But just before Mason is able to stop the broadcast, there is an explosion and Dragovich appears. Dragovich points a gun at Mason before getting shot by Hudson, which leaves him exposed, and Mason takes his shot to grab Dragovich and pull him down to the lower deck, where he strangles Dragovich to death.
You don't know anything! Try to turn me against my own! Try to make me kill my own president! Right?
I absolutely love this classic Call of Duty ending that has been executed so well time and time again. You're on a wild goose chase to find and take out an evil mastermind, then kill him in a brutal hand-to-hand combat or slow motion combat, and yeah, the quick time events are always justified in Call of Duty, whereas this guy can go fuck himself. Mason and Hudson then make their way to the surface, and it becomes clear that the overall mission has been a huge success, and leaves any viewers who take in this amazing landscape to want to be an American. Fuck yeah. You then get a cutscene of the broadcaster reciting the numbers and get one of the best edited and creepiest historical flashbacks in any Call of Duty game to date. Call of Duty Black Ops 1 is a single-player campaign done right. Treyarch pushed cancel culture aside during many of its controversial themes and historical people, while proving that COD isn't only an edgy epic shoot-'em-up with explosions, machine guns, and slow-motion breaches. These campaigns can contain stories that blow your mind and leave you not only curious about the fictional story of Alex Mason, but the historical recounts of the Vietnam War, the Cold War, World War II, and even MKUltra. This even let me go down rabbit holes of real events and the conspiracies of MKUltra. And I simply haven't been compelled to do this in many other video games I've experienced. When you combine all of these elements that are exhibited in the storytelling and settings, it's easy to understand why Black Ops 1 has the insurmountable status that it still holds today. From the beginning until the very end of this whole adventure, this game has all of the components that complement the story, great stealth missions, amazing visuals that still hold up today, and likable characters that you genuinely care about, all encompassed by a satisfying ending and the ever-emerging desire of you wanting to be an American. Fuck yeah! Well, that just about wraps up this retrospective. If you've liked this video, I'd highly appreciate it if you took the time to just click that subscribe button and give this video a like, as I'm rather new to YouTube and it's pretty difficult to get a following nowadays on this site. And this video did take quite a while to type out and create. My voice is very sore, but I do love making these types of videos, and if you enjoyed it, I'm really glad I was able to entertain you, or maybe inspire you to boot up the dusty copy of Black Ops 1 again, or maybe even buy it for the first time if you haven't even played it. Yet again, thanks heaps for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode. As always, stay safe, stay sexy, stay humble. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Suck your nipple.